You're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, here at Stone Soup Studio at the Peace and Justice Network.
KXVS.
Welcome to Stockton 360 News Magazine. I'm Professor Jimenez, and with me in our studio is San Joaquin Pride Center Director Nicholas Hatten. Welcome, Nicholas.
Oh, thank you for having me, Mary. Glad to be here.
I'm really glad that you made it out. You know, we're really excited for a Pride celebration that's coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday was our fourth festival, and here we are again. But we're bigger, better, and we can't wait to put on a show.
You know, tell me, how long have you been involved with the Pride community here in, the Central Valley?
So, the Pride Center of the Pride Festival is celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Okay.
I have been involved within the LGBT community for, I would say, about 8 or 9 years. I think it really reached its peak around Prop 8, and unfortunately, here in San Joaquin County and in Stockton, that proposition overwhelmingly passed, which meant that a huge majority, I believe it was 65% of the public, voted against allowing gay marriage. That was the catalyst that said we need to do something, and many of us continued to fight and opened the Pride Center and organized the Pride Festival to make sure that people understood who we are and what we're really about.
Right. It's interesting because you're not only involved with the Pride Center, but you're involved in a lot of civic action activities. Tell us a little bit.
I didn't.
Tell us about yourself. I mean, the Nicholas Hatten that I know, I remember meeting you, Nicholas, and we were both on the Charter Review Advisory Committee. So tell me about all of the other things that you're involved in, your background.
So that's a great question, and I never really looked at my role in our movement, but I see so much intersectionality, and I can't help but look at myself and as a Latino, as an African American, as a gay man from Stockton, realizing that there is a lot of overlap in the work that I do and all the work that I do. And you bring up the Charter Review Commission, and I fought to get on that committee, because we had a election process that made it tougher for minority voices to be heard, by requiring you to raise a substantial amount of money so that you could get name recognition throughout the entire city versus getting elected in your own district. And so, like I said, I wish I didn't have to do all the things that I do, but there's just not enough people, or there wasn't enough people 8 years ago, 5 years ago, stepping up and making their voice heard. I think things are changing, and I see more and more young people. I mean, I look around this studio, and it just inspires me that so many young voices are being heard now, and maybe I could take a break.
Well, you've been really inspirational, not only in the community, but for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
I remember the last time I saw you on a political stage was on your birthday.
Yeah. How crazy was that?
Yeah, that was really interesting because Bill Clinton came to town.
Yeah.
You were introducing all the other candidates, and you said, well, welcome to my birthday. And it was kind of an interesting, welcome. You're all gathered here for your birthday.
I don't do the work that I do to get to meet a former U.S. president, and that came as a shock. I didn't believe it. To share a stage with civil rights icon Dolores Huerta, and President Clinton and local hero, Assemblymember Susan Eggman. That was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And to have it on my birthday, I had to take that moment. I'm sorry, Hillary. I had to steal the moment and make it all about me.
Hey, that was great. I really thought it was well represented, the people that were on that stage that afternoon. It was really hot, I remember.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful, welcome.
And that was just another example. They had heard of the work that I did and the fact that I was defending our LGBT community against some really ugly voices. The former... was not the chaplain.
Right.
Was it the city
Yeah.
chaplain?
Yes,
and then you had
yes.
the Stockton police lieutenant, who were raising ruckus nationally.
Right.
And then there I was, defending our community. And I got a lot of people reaching out to me telling me that I sounded sane and sensible and that they sounded extreme. And I think that that's what's so important about having representation, is that you humanize who your movement is, and you allow people to realize, you know what, there's strength in diversity. We have to work together.
Absolutely. So, because of your involvement, wanted to find out from you. You also mentioned at one point, you and I had a conversation about the LGBT community here in the Central Valley. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about the roots of it, the beginning. We had talked about, are there actual resources for them, and what is available? So
what's interesting is Stockton in particular has a rich LGBT history. Not many people know it.
Right.
At one time, I think there were 4 or 5 LGBT clubs. The funny thing is, one of the clubs that lasted the longest was called the Gay 90s.
Okay.
And this is Stockton. I love this story. People didn't know it was a gay bar, but it was called the Gay 90s,
Nice.
But in 1972, the very first LGBT organization was founded. That was just 3 years after the Stonewall riots and the LGBT civil rights movement. So Stockton has been ahead of the curve. They've done it differently in that they raised money. The Imperial San Joaquin Delta Empire, which is the drag queen court, they raised money and gave it to other organizations just to humanize themselves. They feared for their lives, in fact. So when in the larger cities, individuals were up front and they were fighting for LGBT civil rights, here locally we thought it was smarter, safer to just donate money. And I think that speaks volumes to the people that we are, and we're caring and we're loving people, but we're also people that care about our safety. And so through that, our community has quietly evolved. And it wasn't until, I believe, 1996 when we had our very first LGBT Pride event. And all of this stuff, by the way, is going to be documented on this huge timeline that's going to be at the Pride Festival. So I encourage everybody to come. It's a beautiful display. Sean Crary did the graphic designs. It's a huge timeline. But it wasn't until the Pride Center opened 5 years ago that we actually had resources to support our LGBT community socially. And so we're behind the curve in that respect, and we've got a lot of ground to make up to make sure that our community is getting the resources and the support that they so desperately need. So
Saturday, there's going to be a great amount of people. You're expecting how many?
Well, we're hoping for 10,000.
Wow. And this is going to be where?
It's going to be at Weber Point.
Okay.
5 years ago when we held our first Pride Festival, we were hoping for 500, and we had 3,000 people show up. And so who knows what's going to happen Saturday. It's going to be a party, that I can guarantee. And it's going to be a lot of learning and better understanding what it means to be LGBT with our little twist of making sure it's fun.
Right. So what are the main attractions to see?
The main attractions have to be, hands down, Ms. Crystal Waters.
Oh, that's going to be exciting.
I never imagined in my life that we would have a performer of her caliber. And she puts on a show, nonstop dancing. We've got to fly in her dancers to be with her. And she's also, an LGBT icon that's really fought for social justice and has put really, relevant and articulate messages within her music. And a lot of people will listen to dance music and say, oh, it's just the beat. It's so repetitive. It's only about having fun. No, house music and house culture, is very serious. And while we can have fun with it, I think that there are messages within that about tolerance and acceptance that Ms. Waters has really led and really championed throughout her career as a performer.
Okay, so It's going to be exciting. I know it is, and I can't wait to actually cover it. You know, we have a team of people from KXVS, and we'll be out there with you. And also our EDM
And the weather.
United.
The weather is going to be awesome. So
what's the temperature?
87.
Ah, perfect. It won't be like 99.
It won't. So when you get out there to the EDM dance area, and it's at the point, it's such a beautiful area of Weber Point, you are going to have enough shade and enough of that Delta water breeze to dance your butt off.
That's going to be nice.
Yes.
I like that. So, you know, let's go to a little bit of questions about our LGBT community here in Stockton. What are the challenges right now that you see? You know, there are a lot of hate going on out there. Is there acceptance? You know, give me a gauge.
I'll say it's getting better.
Okay.
I think that more and more leaders are stepping up and defending our community, but we still have work. We still get complaints from students in school that they're being bullied, and surprisingly, it's not the students that are doing the bullying. It's the adults on campus. And we hear from a lot of teachers and a lot of LGBT staff that are, one, scared to share that they're an ally, or two, they're scared to come out because of fear of retaliation from their coworkers. So, you know, we've got to fix that. You know, if our kids don't feel safe in school, if our kids don't feel safe to go to an adult on campus and say, I'm being bullied,
right,
then the system is mixed up or messed up, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I think it's still broken.
Yes.
You know, in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of intolerance.
Definitely. And here's, you know, the reality. I think a lot of my siblings in the LGBT movement, gay marriage happened, and they all said, I'm going home. I'm living my life. But there's still a lot of work, and it's tougher work because it's all local. You know, it's all at the school district levels, and you can't nationally mandate, as we just found out with bathroom rights. And praise to President Obama, praise to our Attorney General for standing up saying, we hear you and we're here for you. But when you have a regional, you know, when you have a state court, Supreme Court step in and say, you're overstepping your boundaries, then it turns the shift, or it shifts the power from the feds to the state, to the county,
right,
to the school district, and we still have to fight those fights to make sure that every single student has the right to privacy and the right to an education.
Absolutely. So we're speaking to Nicholas Hatten, the director of San Joaquin Pride Center. We'll be right back after a few announcements. We're going to take a short break before we go into other matters such as his message to the community and the current projects of San Joaquin Pride Center. On your FM dial,
92.1
KXVS.
Hello, my friends. This is Jan from Ryan Rippleman Show. I'm with Steve Goodwin. Who are you?
Well, it's Tim Goodwin, and I am an actor and producer on the movie being filmed here in Lodi called Divine Appointment.
Your name's not Steve. I'm at the wrong shop.
You're listening to the Ryan and Rippleman Show here on KXVS.org, the voice of Stockton. Where are Ryan and Rippleman? I can't find them.
They flew the coop.
Of course.
This is Stockton 360 News Magazine. I'm Professor Jimenez, and by my side is Nicholas Hatten, the San Joaquin Pride Center Director. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Nicholas. Okay, so we left off with tolerance. We left off with things that the government now is actually acknowledging for LGBT communities, such as the bathroom. And that is in itself a big issue among people that can't really understand, why, what's the point of it. Not to go really into it, I'd like to know what the San Joaquin Pride Center is doing in terms of, or how is it gaining respect as well as getting support from the community at large.
Sure. So our big focus, I think, is on our youth and collaborating with our school districts and educating them in some respects and having them educate us on their culture and their protocols. And, we just a few months back worked with Stockton Unified School District in their LCFS process, and they committed $100,000 to educating their staff about cultural tolerance and anti-bullying of LGBT, specifically LGBT. It was the very first school district in the state of California to have specific language pertaining to LGBT plus. Not even San Francisco and LA went that far. So, I cannot praise Stockton Unified enough. They also are including a diversity director through the LCAP budget. So it's doing things like that, working in partnership with agencies and organizations to make spaces safer for our youth. Later on this year, we are going to be providing mental health services for the very first time. And, that's been a struggle. I want to say all, but most Pride Centers collaborate with their county mental health and get funding to provide these services. Not here in San Joaquin County, not here in Stockton. And, there's still a culture, an insular culture with our behavioral health agencies that need to be addressed. And they need to realize that they need to collaborate with these communities because we know where and how to serve our community. And yet we're, put on a back burner. And that hurts. Serving the diversity in San Joaquin County. And then we are moving in a couple weeks.
Tell me about that.
So, we've gotten too big. And so we're really excited to partner up with 10 Space and offer a new and funky and hip and urban space.
Nice.
The space that our community deserves. Not only is it going to be a safe space, but it's going to be a space that our community can be proud of.
So you're leaving that building?
We're going to be in that building, just in a bigger space. Yes.
Perfect.
We firmly believe in staying downtown. It has to be convenient for our youth and our community to get to, and there still isn't anywhere easier to get to in this county than downtown, because you can get from Tracy to Stockton, Lathrop to Stockton, Manteca to Stockton, Lodi to Stockton with one stop. And we have to be easily accessible.
Here I am talking about the San Joaquin Pride Center, and I forgot to ask you, what are the different services you have?
So we have a dynamic youth group, and we're expanding that in a couple months to include activism on a daily basis, and we're engaging or encouraging our youth to engage the community on a larger level. We have peer groups, women's, men's, transgender groups, and they meet monthly and do various activities. And we do advocacy. And work with organizations like CRLA to provide legal support, working with organizations like the California Endowment and Equality California, talking about our undocumented LGBT individuals and how we can best support them. You are more likely as a transgender woman of color to end up in jail than you are to graduate high school. And we have to start engaging, the underrepresented, even within our LGBT community. And that definitely means protecting our undocumented LGBT people.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're in the forefront for that, here in San Joaquin. That's great work, Nicholas. So I'm going to go into your message to the community. I know that you work with all ages. from age what to what?
We got a call last week from a school where a second grader had transitioned, transgender, and the school was shocked. And I'm like, don't be shocked, it happens. So we work, as early as 5, 6 years old, all the way up. That program about youth that I mentioned,
yes,
we're going to be requiring that they get mentored by a senior LGBT person, so that they can learn, from that generation and also build relationships. And so we serve the entire spectrum and rainbow of LGBT people, and not just Stockton. I think a lot of people think we only service Stockton, but we are in Tracy. We're building bridges with Mountain House. We're working in Lodi. We work in Ripon. We did training in Linden.
Wow.
So yeah, we want to cover this entire county, and we look forward. We're working on an app, and we're working on building our website out so that individuals will have access to mental health and other members of the community through social media, through apps and technology.
That's great. Wow, you got a lot of work set forth for you. And
then we got to put on a party on Saturday.
And the party, well, see, that's the big celebration of all the hard work that you and your center has done for this valley. And I can see it just, being such a big celebration. And we got to have a parade next year, okay?
We'll work on that, Mary.
That would be great. A parade. We got to have a parade.
But will you ride in it with the tiara?
I totally will.
Okay.
I totally will. I have to say, I'll tell you, Nicholas, when I came to the Valley 13 years ago, I was from San Francisco. I'm really from San Francisco, like I mentioned. I always mention that because I'm proud to be a San Franciscan. But at the same time, I love the fact that we are very active, or I am active in the gay lesbian community. Always been. I'm always in the parades. I'm always helping homeless people. I'm helping people that that have to transfer over from, I guess, homelessness to going back to school to transition, the transition parts. Because I was once an outreach counselor at City College. So I dealt with a lot of different issues that also had to do with people that would get in trouble, and they were not really in trouble. They'd put them into that category. But I must say, the pride that we experience, that word pride, really, it comes out for me when we're in that parade. In San Francisco, it's the biggest parade. Sure. And in any city, you see the pride in you, and we must have that. I mean, definitely.
We must, definitely. And I'm seeing more and more smaller communities doing just that. The difference between a city like San Francisco and LA and New York is that the community, they're there. Right. And in these smaller communities, despite Stockton being as diverse and San Joaquin being diverse, we'd say, well, we are diverse, but we don't have to really talk about it because we are. No, we need to better understand our differences. Our agencies that serve our homeless need to understand that 40% of youth identify as 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBT. Our entire criminal system needs to understand that 40% of women in prison identify as LGBT. And if we're not talking about the specific and unique needs that they have,
that's right,
they're never going to get out of that system. Our foster youth, hugely disproportionate number of LGBT youth are in the foster system, and they end up getting timed out because nobody will take them in. And then you look at who's serving the foster youth, and it's organizations that are religious backed. Well, hey, I am all for religious freedom.
Sure.
But if your religious dogma teaches you to not support the LGBT community, that creates a problem when have homeless and foster youth that need to be serviced. So again, if we don't talk about these things, and we certainly are now, but the importance of Pride festivals is that one day where everybody comes together in the community and looks at those differences, celebrates those differences, and that's what makes it easier 364 other days of the year to live in an area like this and be LGBT.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Yeah, you beautifully said. And I must say, okay, I'm sure we have some listeners that probably are touched with our conversation. And if they want to help, Nicholas, what do they do?
Well, they can definitely visit our website, sjpridecenter.org, and make a donation. They can volunteer. And, it's interesting. a lot of us would go out to San Francisco for AIDS Day or go out to San Francisco for Pride. I want to see that shift. I want to see people from the Bay Area coming to Stockton Pride, coming to Modesto Pride, coming to Merced Pride, who had their very first Pride Festival this year. Because if you want to know where the real hard work is for LGBT acceptance, it's in those smaller conservative areas. And it's great that these corporations give tons of money to the larger Pride festivals, but you gotta also pay attention to the smaller areas. We've been lucky over the last couple of years. Organizations like Wells Fargo, PG&E have stepped up, and they've realized that they need to look at the smaller areas. But some of my siblings in other parts of the country, it's a tough fight, and so I challenge your Bay Area peeps. And I lived in the Bay Area. I love them. They inspired me to do this work because I came back here and said, "Hey, why do I have all these resources in Oakland and San Francisco, but I moved to Stockton and there's none?" We need our siblings all over this state to really help us fight this, so that the kids in a city like Ripon, in a city like Tracy, can grow up and be just as successful as the kids in San Francisco and in LA.
Great. That is so true. And I have to say, it must be harder over here on this end than it is in big cities like New York and LA and San Francisco and even Oakland.
So there's an organization that has an official sponsorship with the San Francisco Giants. I'm not going to say who they are, but when we went to go visit them and asked them to sponsor Stockton Pride, we were told, this is our very first year, we don't serve your kind.
Oh, that's not right.
Yeah. And they have an official sponsorship at San Francisco Giants. That's what we're dealing with in areas like Stockton and San Joaquin.
We should talk about those things because honestly, those are the kind of organizations or corporations that shouldn't really be around because there's no tolerance. Yeah. And I find that very intolerant. Yeah. Just not in this day and age. I believe in diversity and I believe in choice. Yeah. And this is about choice and about being happy. Yeah. And truthfully.
And if your choice is to be straight, then don't sleep with somebody of the same gender.
I know, right? So, okay. So, lastly, your message to the community, Nicholas. People out there going to see this big, wonderful festival you have, and also know about San Joaquin Pride Center. What can we say to them?
For one, join us and come with an open mind. It's gonna be a party. We have a carnival. We have Crystal Waters and other entertainers and tons of awesome food. We've got this pizza cone guy that's coming out, Pizzacopia, that I'm really excited to try. And then just take a look at some of the diversity that is not within your own sphere with an open mind and learn a little bit, I think that's what we all have to do. And I even have to do that, even within our own LGBT umbrella. But I think if we all do that and give ourselves that openness to learn about other diverse individuals, that's how we're going to achieve true, acceptance.
Okay, so, thank you so much for coming in, taking time out from this busy week that you're going to have.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you making that call and inviting me.
Of course. I mean, there'll be more. You're always welcome to KXVS 92.1 FM. Here, especially with Stockton 360 News Magazine, you have an open door. Okay?
Awesome. 100% pure love?
100% pure love. And I just wanted to say, we've kind of ran out of time, and it's time for us to give thanks to our sponsors. And I'm going to read out our sponsors. I'd like to say thank you to Hotel Furniture Liquidators. Also would like to say thank you to Custom Plastics and Signs. I'd also like to say thank you to the Most Services Leaders Company, as well as Tender Donuts. And again, thank you very much, Nicholas Hatten, the director of San Joaquin Pride Center, for coming in and sharing all the great information. We look forward to being with you on Saturday. We will be covering it live for you, as well as our EDM Radio United is going to be there. So really thank you very much. This is Professor Jimenez, and I'd like to say have a good evening. This is Stockton 360 News Magazine. Have a good night.
soon.
On your FM dial,
92.1
KXVS.
DJ Nikki D.
London Mark.
Alex.
And you can catch us on the Rise and Shine 209 show.
We talk about music, sports, pop culture, and whatever we feel like talking about.
Anything funny, interesting that we can give you our insight to.
From 7 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. Right here on KXVS.
The voice of Stockton.
Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon.